Does he or does he not exist? It's a question that is commonly asked. To demonstrate that God does in fact exist, I will use what is known as a deductive argument, which is an extremely powerful method of argument that logically demonstrates the existence of a divine being. A deductive argument is one that contains a number of statements or premises, followed by a conclusion. Now, if the statements or premises are proven to be true, then it makes it impossible to reject the conclusion. For example, if I said in statement 1 that all men are mortals, and in statement 2, Jonathan is a man. Now, we've proven statement 1, which is to be true. We've proven that yes, indeed, Jonathan is a man. So the conclusion, Jonathan is mortal, it becomes impossible to reject. So this is an example of a deductive argument. Now what we have here on the board is an example of a deductive argument that proves the existence of a divine being. The first premise is something exists. Now the premise that something exists is a premise that does not require any investigation whatsoever. I accept that things do exist. This board exists, this pen exists, humans exist, cars exist. Even a child will know this to be true. This point is merely stating a truth and does not require any investigation whatsoever. The second premise is, well, that thing that exists, and it now exists, it either exists as a result of itself, it created itself, you had creation create itself, or it was created by a being who always existed. Now let's look at that. The creation at one point did not exist, after which they came into existence. So at one point they didn't exist, then they came to exist. So the origin of creation is in fact non-existence. They didn't exist, then they came to exist. Now if we said that creation relied upon another creation to exist, well, you have exactly the same thing, because the origin is still going to be non-existence. If that creation relies upon another creation to exist, well, you're going to have exactly the same thing, which is the origin is going to be non-existence. If that keeps going forever and ever and ever, all you will ever have is non-existence. So the question needs to be asked, if all you ever have is non-existence, from where will existence arise? How will existence come about if all we have in that chain, which regresses forever, how will we ever get existence? How will existence ever arise? Existence will only ever arise if this stops at the being whose essence is existence. Meaning that this being never began. He was not caused to exist. And in fact, he is a beginningless being. And he was the one that gave rise to their existence. Without him, they cannot exist. So something from nothing is indeed a contradiction. We've proven that premise 1 is true. Premise 2 is true. Therefore, it becomes impossible to reject the conclusion, which is that something has indeed always existed. Otherwise, you would not have come to exist. Now someone will no doubt ask, okay, I accept that something has indeed always existed, but why must it be God? Why could it not be something that may one day be discovered by science? Well, consider this. The state of existence and non-existence are two complete opposites. If all that there ever was non-existence, if all that there ever was non-existence, then how could existence, its complete opposite, come about and emerge if it were not chosen? if it were not selected. Look at it this way. If I had two identical cups of water and I did not possess the ability to simply choose one of them, I would forever continue to gaze at both because I don't have the capacity to choose, to select. But since I have chosen one of them, it means that I have the capacity to freely choose. Therefore, given the fact that we exist and that existence was chosen over our non-existence, it means that the eternally existing being possesses the attribute of will, which is to simply freely choose. Furthermore, how could one choose if they did not possess the knowledge to know what they were in fact choosing? Randomness produces chaos and dysfunction unless it is subject to knowledge. This being must therefore possess complete knowledge. Also, how can inability produce such a vast creation? This point alone necessarily establishes that the eternal being in question possesses infinite ability and power. Now, these are only a few examples of some of the traits that the divine being possesses, but I think for now they suffice and establish that indeed something has always existed and that something possesses certain attributes such as to freely choose, the knowledge to know what is being chosen, and the ability to produce what one knows, and so on and so forth. Therefore, God necessarily exists, and there is no doubt in that.